More moves are imminent for the Los Angeles Lakers as Rob Pelinka in the Luka Doncic press conference was asked about trades and has revealed his master plan as the deadline inches closer and closer and is about 48 hours away. We're going to break down exactly what he said and discuss what this means going forward. We also have some other reports from notable reporters revealing some new details surrounding what Pelinka's plan is and what moves are on the horizon. So stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. But before we get into it, if you're part of the 86% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. Shout out to each and every one of you who tuned into our live stream during the press conference this afternoon. We're getting closer and closer to 10,000 subscribers. We're making multiple videos a day for you all. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, whether it be trade news, but also after the deadline, post-game videos, all the news for the Lakers, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support. There's a ton to go over today. Rob Pelinka, obviously there's a press conference. It was focused around Luka Doncic, but also in there, we had some questions asked to Rob Pelinka about his trade plans with less than 48 or about 48 hours away as of the time of recording to the official trade deadline. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over. Let's start with this. There's a ton of things. We're going to start with this here. The urgency is ever present. At the same time, you have to be realistic. This was when he was asked about if trades are imminent and if, what his plan is for this trade deadline. If there's not a championship big, I can't wave a wand. As we saw with this trade, it takes two teams. That's what Rob Pelinka said. And if you actually watch the press conference, whether it be in our stream or on your own, it seemed like he is very open to making more moves, but he kind of called out some of the other teams, basically saying it takes two to tango here. And this is what, there's a ton of comments. This is all he had to say. We know our roster has work to do to become complete. To be clear, we're going to build around a roster that works around JJ Redick's basketball philosophy. We know we need a big. The market for bigs is very dry. Maybe, we basically said, maybe we'll do stuff that kind of dives into some of the mid-tier bigs. But when it comes to the higher tier bigs, it's hard to find. And it seems like he is trying to temper expectations a little bit as it pertains to going after he keeps mentioning championship caliber starting centers. Now, we've been seeing reports about a bunch of different guys, whether it be Jakob, whether it be Nick Claxton. Of course, there were some rumors circulating surrounding Miles Turner. It seems like he is not necessarily closing the door on a Miles Turner trade, but he's trying to temper expectations. Basically, he kept calling out the other team saying, if there's no championship caliber, starting centers out there, then we can't trade for him, right? It takes two to, can't wave a wand, all these things. And this is specifically talking about players like, of course, Walker Kessler and Miles Turner. It seems like those guys might not be available from the side of the Pacers and the Jazz, because it is no doubt in my mind that Rob Pelinka, based on the way he's speaking, based on all the reports we're hearing, that Rob Pelinka is absolutely willing to make a big deal for a center, right? He makes it clear as day. They need a center. They want a center. And it's clear that he acknowledges that there's work to do in order for this roster to become complete. Now, in the same vein, he needs to go out and get a big. Now, there's a couple other things here. This is what else he had to say. There's Robert Williams, Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton seems to be the guy. You can see in the quote tweet there, the versatility, mobility, a vertical lob threat, competitive. Those players are hard to find, but we'll find a way. Rob Pelinka on the big he wants. This screams Nick Claxton to me. And when he's talking about a championship caliber center, obviously, I still think he's talking about the really high end. And if you watch the press conference, really talking about the high end players in, on the trade market, whether that be Miles Turner, whether that be a guy like Walker Kessler. But when they, press him a little bit more on what exactly he's looking for in a big, and he goes on to say a big that's versatile, mobile, and a vertical lob threat, this takes away some of the other bigs that we've been talking about. Now, I would say that Walker Kessler still fits this bill, but when you're talking about Miles Turner, I wouldn't necessarily consider him a vertical lob threat or super mobile. Like, he's a mobile center for sure. He's a stretch five, but he is more of a elite 3 and D, or a stretch big basically. Whereas a guy like Nick Claxton is a specifically versatile, mobile, versatile defensively. Offensively, of course, he's not that versatile because he can't shoot the ball, but he is specifically mobile, vertical lob threat, and absolutely competitive. And you're coming off of course, we have Miles Turner here. You have Robert Williams, but we're going to focus on Nick Claxton here for a minute. He, like I've covered in previous videos, he is a great lob threat. He's having a bit of a down year. You'd probably be able to get him for cheap, at least cheaper than what you would have expected, and definitely cheaper than some of the other guys in the market that Rob Pelinka is talking about. And as he kept talking about how, how the big man market is so dry, how there's not a lot of elite big men necessarily that can, a huge splash. Nick Claxton's kind of in the middle where he's under contract for the next couple of seasons, 3 seasons, I believe, till 2027, 2028. That's when he becomes a UFA. He's under contract for the next 3 seasons. You have a guy that is able to protect the rim, be versatile. Now, I see some of the concerns in the comment section down below, basically about how will he be able to guard the big guys, the Nikola Jokic's of the world. That's a good question. And I still think he's good enough defensively to figure it out. They can run some, interesting 2 big lineups. But when you're talking about these guys, I think he's specifically mentioning Nick Claxton as well as Day'Ron Sharpe, who I've covered in a previous video. Because Day'Ron Sharpe, you can probably get cheap from the Nets, and he is a very good, young, versatile big. Now, he would probably, in an ideal world, like I mentioned, like Akeshi and I mentioned in the stream, in an ideal world, it would probably be, as a backup big, talking about Day'Ron Sharpe. I think you could get away with Nick Claxton being a starting center for the LA Lakers. What will he take? Will he take the first round pick? That's the big question. He's a young, controllable center. It might. And leave down below. Let me know right now. Would you do Nick Claxton for a first round pick? Of course, with salary as well, because Nick Claxton signed that 4-year, $91 million deal, I believe it was. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Would you do a first round pick for Nick Claxton? Because that's when things start to get really interesting. And talking about interesting, there was a report that just dropped saying the Lakers are interested in Robert Williams. The Lakers are known to have interest in Williams as well. The 27-year-old signed through next season at 12.4 and 13.2. You can use the contracts of Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, whoever you want to do here to get this deal done. Robert Williams would not require a first-round pick. He is riddled with injuries. He's only played 17 games. He's played a combined 23 games over the past couple of seasons. But at his peak, he is one of the best defensive big men in the league. And this is another case of buying low. And I think with the way that this market is going and the way that Rob Pelinka is talking, buying low is what the Lakers are going to have to do, because Miles Turner, Walker Kessler, those type of players don't seem available. Jakob Poeltl is still an interesting guy. We'll have a video coming out on him probably later today or tomorrow. There's a lot of reports flying, but Nick Claxton and a guy like Robert Williams are the 2 guys that A, Rob Pelinka zeroed in on when he talked about what they're looking for, and B, makes sense compared to a guy like Miles Turner, who's going to cost a lot more, is an absolutely perfect fit, but doesn't seem to be available because the Pacers are trying to win. And that's ultimately, what it comes down to. The Pacers are trying to win. The Lakers are trying to win. And let's not forget, Pelinka's coming off of a fleece of a trade with the Luka Doncic deal. So I think at this point, Robert Williams is a great option. I think Nick Claxton is probably the best option out of the bunch, and they know they have work to do. They know it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, especially with the fact that a lot of these guys are, not necessarily available. A lot of the targets that, fans want the Lakers to go after. And obviously, as a Lakers fan myself, Nick Claxton would fit well. Obviously, I prefer to get a guy like Miles Turner, but the urgency is ever present. At the same time, you have to be realistic. Urgency is definitely present. It's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers decide to do. But again, it's going to be interesting. Luka Doncic with a little bit of quotes as well here. First day was really hard. The last 48 hours was hard, but today is much better. I'm happy to be here. It's the Lakers, one of the best clubs in history. Now Rob Pelinka, it's his job to go out and build around these guys. But let me know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.